matter of cleaning everything up.
Thank you so much for joining us for service. Enjoy the ambiance. We'll start in about 8 minutes.
Well, the Republicans in the Senate have a little more sense. They understand that. Chamber for the people and a chamber for the lords.
Yes, for the wise ones. The wealthy.
Okay.
I'll make sure.
I don't.
It's not easy to have that enough to
I'll find somebody. I'll find somebody.
Well, it is if you're going to use it as a weapon. If you use it judiciously, then that prevents the majority from running amok. But if you use it every time a vote comes to the floor, then that's
not your vote. What you want.
well, I think one thing they need to do is go back to the days of Liberty Stewart, require people to hold the floor. Filibuster. Stand up there and filibuster. If you sit down, you lose the floor.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Hopefully it'll be good.
Hello, Bob.
Hi, Julia.
Very well numbered. That's what I thought.
Once a week I try to get insulted.
We all owe you vote of thanks. Oh, yeah, no, we do.
There's no elsewhere. No.
Scanners and that.
Yeah, I read a lot of emails.
I was wondering if this is about to school year anniversary.
Judy walked his over there.
Quote, any stuff I did with any stuff, especially farm girl would do. I got out the tractor and left. Well, consider the thanks more for
Yeah, very open to suggestions,
You are fine. About half the number. That's I'm not happy. Is it mild or is the vaccine Yes, that's probably the main reason I don't consider going. Yep. Yep. You don't want to let anybody know what you're going to do. They do that in matter of fact, someone stop it. Two lanes going straight, so turn lane coming this way. Turn down the left lane, straight. Person in the turn lane would start going out to the second. It was her right away.
Found it.
30 seconds, guys.
Okay.
Will.
Take care of one of my jobs.
All in these little cards and they're just hints. I never heard of anybody say something. Yeah.
you, Beth, for the great uplifting music. Morning. I'm Jim Black, and I'm the service leader today on this wonderful day. Hopefully we'll have some sunshine later. The opening words are Being Sanctuary by Jennifer Van Roo and Lynette Bob. Come into the circle of community. Come into the sacred space. Be not tentative. Bring your whole self. Bring the joy that makes your heart sing. Bring your kindness and compassion. Bring also your sorrow and your pain. Bring your brokenness and your disappointments. Spirit of love and mystery, help us to recognize the spark of the divine that resides in each one of us. May we know the joy of wholeness. May we know the joy of being together. So welcome. It's our custom to invite people who are visitors or haven't been here in a while to stand up and introduce themselves if they feel comfortable in doing so, and just let them know. So, yes, thank you.
We're Mike and Lynn Hoffman. We're from Madison. We're members of First Unitarian in Madison. And we have a house down here in Ephraim, so we are joining you this morning.
Oh, well, very good. Welcome. Very good. On the back of the order of service, there are some announcements. Does anybody have any additions, modifications, alterations? In the back, yes. And Dick will bring the mic.
Hi, my name is Trish Black, and this Thursday at the Sister Bay Northern NWTC is an aging resource fair. Starts at, I think, 11:30. It is from, 11 to 2. There is some food available, first come, first serve, but there'll be about 5 different presentations from area providers. There'll be a lot of resources. So just an opportunity to come and find out what is available in our community. So often we are racking our brain at a time of need, and then, so this is an opportunity to find out before you actually need the service. So I encourage you to attend. Pre-registration is suggested. You can do that by calling, or you can email your registration to, at sisterbay@nwtc.edu. So hope you attend.
Gwen Gray Boyce just wanted to do an update on our solar initiative. We are getting very, very close, and everyone is invited on January 10th to attend a Zoom board meeting where we will present our fundraising update as of probably Monday, and ask the board for their approval of proceeding with the project.
Very good, thank you. Today's speaker is the Reverend Mark Richards. And Reverend Mark Richards is familiar to most of us. He's been part of fellowship for several years. And you may know Mark has stepped into the leadership role of the Wisconsin Unitarian Universalist State Action Network, WUSUN. And you may not know what an amazing job Mark is doing as president of WUSUN. Mark has engaged several UU congregations in Wisconsin to participate.
I'm making.
Sorry, those at home, Mark is harassing me with his faces. I'm going to take all this back now. But he has engaged many UU congregations to participate in UU the Vote. These congregations sent out postcards, phone banked, and generally let folks know how to register to vote and got them out to vote. And I think that probably had an impact. I know that he worked with some folks in Madison. He has reached out to congregations to let them know what WUSUN's all about, and he's partnered with the Minnesota State Action Network, Moose Jaw. I am so jealous of that. Moose Jaw. You'll never forget the State Action Network with Moose Jaw. And they are very robust. They're pretty active. And Mark has done a great job working with Karen from Moose Jaw. And he has also kept in touch with UUA at the national level. In fact, today's presentation has to do with changes in Article 2 from the UUA. And he does all this while he's working a full-time job ministering to people at the end of their life through his full-time job as a hospice chaplain. So thank you, Mark. And after the service, there will be coffee and tea in the gathering room. And after about 15 minutes, the chimes will ring. And if people are interested in discussing with Mark his presentation, will be talk back on this side of the room. The chalice lighting. On the brink of a new year. This is by Lois Van Leer. We light this chalice on the brink of a new year, letting go of what has been, open and hopeful for what may come. Renewed, restored, ready to live life fully anew, may we move forward with intention. Please stand if you're able to recite the unison information in the doxology. I'm sorry, what? Oh, sorry, I'm losing my cheat sheet and doesn't have the hymn, sorry. And now the unison affirmation and doxology. We gather together to seek knowledge and wisdom, to explore freely in the vast reaches of mind and spirit, to celebrate within a caring community those truths, ancient and modern, which give meaning and direction to our lives. Thank you. That's what I get for printing off the order of service before the hymns are read. This is the time in our service where there's an opportunity to share any joy you may have or concern. Do recall if you're going to share something about somebody else that this is live on the internet, and so make sure you get that permission. So again, if you have a joy or concern, Dick will bring the mic around.
I'll go for one. Last night, Buttons and I went to the auditorium, and I think I saw a couple of people there, Donna and Meg, I think I saw you there. And it was a program on gratitude, and it was kind of a troika. There was a film by Louis Schwartzberg called Gratitude, and it was kind of an interesting mosaic of all kinds of imagery and so forth and spoken words. And it was interesting. I found it a little bit long, to be perfectly honest with you. But perhaps more importantly, music was provided by Beth Coleman. And the spoken word was provided by Phil Sweet. So it was pretty darn sweet.
And there was quite a few you used there. I always thought it's sort of a service, so you use service.
So this is a joy. I don't know that well, I know that I haven't listened to Kevin McCarthy's opening speech in the House, but I have listened to Hakeem Jeffries' opening speech in the House. And you must either read this or listen to it. It's an evocation of all that is good in our nation. It's really marvelous.
Kevin's was as good as it gets.
Okay, anything else? Thank you. Now, so it's a time for our offertory. Please be generous if you are able. Now to prepare ourselves for Mark's message, we'll have a moment of quiet.
I'm making a lot of noise today. The other mic is on. Our technical expert is taking care of all of this stuff. So good morning. How's everybody? Good. Good. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. We are taking a new perspective today. I love that photo. This is what 2023 looks like right now. We know it's out there somewhere. Can't quite see what it is. Okay, so we're going to talk about this change in that the UUA is going through for Article 2. I'll talk a little bit more about what Article 2 is. But first I want to just talk about this issue of transforming, of transitions. Because we're in January. January is named after the Roman god Janus, who is the god of change, the god of transition, the god of beginnings and endings, the god of doorways, entrances and exits. He's always portrayed as a two-faced God, one looking backwards, the other looking forwards. On this particular image, it's the younger man who's looking backwards and the old wise man who's looking forward. So I find that encouraging, being an old wise man. But this is where we are in our year. This is where we are in our faith. I mean, our political world has changed, and we have a different path going forward. And within the UUA, we have some big changes coming up, and that's what we want to talk about today. So we're talking about the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. Just to lay some background about where all that comes from. The Unitarians hark back to the New England Puritans. And the way that we structure our governance is based upon the Puritan churches of New England, codified in a document called the Cambridge Platform in 1648. The significance of that platform is that it's the last time that the churches in New England would gather as a group for 200 years. So what that means. The things that came out of the Cambridge Platform that most of us still ascribe to today are things like the sainthood of all believers. We look at that today as every person has value. The education of clergy. Harvard College, Yale College, Brown College, Dartmouth College. These all started as places to train clergy because the churches demanded educated clergy. Also, that each church is governed by elders advised by clergy. So the clergy is not the leader of the congregation. The elders elected by the congregation are the leaders. So that whole democratic process of leadership. There's a couple more in there that I'm going to forget. So all of that came about, and the churches in New England were pretty independent. Now, Unitarian churches came out of that tradition. So did the Congregational churches, what we know today as the United Church of Christ. And other churches also practice what we call congregational polity, which means that the congregation is the center of governance. Congregations ordain ministers, congregations call their own ministers. All of this is part of that congregational polity. But congregations have some common needs, and so they found the need to come together in associations. And the UU Association of Congregations came when two other associations merged, the American Unitarian Association and the American Association of Universalists. So in 1962, they came together, formed the UU Association of Congregations. Congregations, so this is a corporation in Massachusetts. It has to have corporate bylaws. I believe in Massachusetts, you're required to state a purpose for your corporation. Even if you're not required to, it's always good somewhere in your foundational documents to describe what it is you're in business for. The bylaws in Article 2 is where we articulate our principles and purposes. And I'm going to go through these sort of comparing the changes. So what happened is in 2021, I'll go back even further. The last time that Article 2 of the bylaws was revised was in 1987. And that's when we got the 6 principles of Unitarian Universalism. The 7th principle was added a few years later. I know I started in a UU church in 1991, and the seventh principle was added after that. And that's also where the 6 sources of our wisdom and inspiration are defined, is in Article 2. Since that time, there have been multiple attempts to change. There's been an attempt to change, there's been amendments offered to adjust the first principle to include all living beings. There's been an amendment adjusted to, held up to change Article 7. And then, of course, there's the whole movement for principle number 8, for the 8th principle, to end racism. All of that brought the board of the UUA together and said, we haven't looked at Article 2 for a long time. Let's commission a study and do a complete review of Article 2 to incorporate all of these changes that people are suggesting, or at least to evaluate all the changes that people are suggesting. Now, if you are familiar with the 8th principle movement, this has been going on for several years. It's been gaining traction. Each congregation by congregation are considering whether to adopt Article 8, principle, the 8th principle. So the study commission itself has as its members some folks who are prominent in that 8th principle movement. So the voice is there. Okay? So let's see what it looks like. So here's our purposes. Currently, purposes are in section 2.2 of Article 2. And then in the new draft, it's going to be right at the top. It's going to be the first section. I'll give you a minute to read it, and then I'll show you where it changes.
Can you go full screen on that?
I don't know if I can or not. Sarah tried, but it didn't seem to work. So let me just read the changes here. The first change is that they've changed the word that the Unitarian Universalist Association shall devote its resources to and exercise its corporate powers. And they've changed that to organizational powers. Now, I don't have any particular insight as to what the thinking of the commission is, but when I read that, I say, well, we're taking it from an authoritative position to a more collaborative position by changing that word. That's how it appears to me. And then the primary purpose of the association is to serve the needs of its member congregations, organize new congregations, extend and strengthen Unitarian Universalist institutions, and implement its principles. That's what it was. They want to change it to its primary purpose are to equip congregations for vital ministry, to support and train leaders, both lay and professional, to heal historic inequities, to advance our Unitarian Universalist values in the world. We will transform the world by our liberating love. So that gives us to my mind, and I'm just voicing my opinion here, but to my mind, that gives us a bit more noble mission in the world, to transform our world through liberating love. So that's the purpose. There is an inclusion statement talking about systems of power, privilege, oppression, which traditionally create barriers for certain persons and groups. We pledge to replace barriers with ever-widening circles of solidarity and mutual respect. The only difference here is that instead of saying we truly welcome all persons, we truly welcome all persons who share our values. Because to say we welcome all persons would open this door to some really strange people. I say, again. Okay. So the inclusion clause hasn't changed a whole lot. There's the statement of freedom and belief, which is identical except for this one statement at the end, which says, in expressing our beliefs, we do so in the spirit of love, in ways that further beloved community. Because I can express my belief in such a way that you will be offended. And that is not expressing it in the spirit of love. Okay. We can argue about certain points of theology. If you're like me, you love to argue about certain points of theology. But we do that in a loving way. We do that in a way that lifts everyone up and values all ideas and thoughts. Okay, so now we get into the principles and the sources. The thing that shows up on our pocket card and is printed in the hymnal. And, is it printed in the order of service? Used to be. But anyway, those 7 principles, 6 sources. In the original document, in the current Article 2, this is one large section. It's section 1. And it's one long statement. I've divided it into 2 sections just because this is where all the meat of the change is going to happen. But you can see, if you know that the 6 sources include scripture from various religions, includes wisdom of the ancients, includes nature-based sources of wisdom. We call out our Jewish and Christian heritage. So it's pretty specific about where we find our wisdom. In the new version, it's pretty generic. As Unitarian Universalists, we draw upon and are inspired by the full depth and breadth of sacred understandings as experienced by humanity. This is our faith. We are called to ever deepen and expand our wisdom. So I'll let you decide for yourself how that reads versus something a little more specific. Okay. Here are our 7 principles as they are. They address I don't know what this button is. There a pointer here? Oh. Okay. So they address what I originally said, the sainthood of all believers with the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The presumption is that if you are alive, you must be a believer of some sort, of something, at least a believer of life. Justice, equity, and compassion. And anyway, you know what these are, right? Okay. So this is the biggest change. It's all based on, it's founded on this value of love. As Unitarian Universalists in religious community, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist each other in engaging our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom and reason, hope and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love inspires and powers the passion with which we embody our values. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are. So I'm just going to stop for a moment and offer you a perspective of what I consider love. Love is simply the power that binds us together. As basic as that. The opposite of love is fear, which is the power that drives us apart. And so we as a religious community are founding our entire values and covenants on the power that brings us together, that binds us as human beings, as living beings. So, then we go to here. I'm not going to be able to do what I wanted to do. My PowerPoint is all set up so that if I press on that, it will go to another slide and then it will come back to this and we'll flip back and forth. But it's not going to do that, so we'll just go this way. So these are what the study commission is proposing as our values. Pluralism, interdependence, equity, generosity, justice, evolution, all built on a foundation of love. We can talk more about this in the talk back, but my thinking is it's easier for me to remember 7 words than it is to remember 7 statements. But justice. So each of these values is presented as kind of a definition and then a covenant. Sometimes these covenants will appear as aspirations, I think. So we work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all people thrive. Our goal is to create a community in which every person can thrive, in my words, can be their authentic self. Our covenant is to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression within individuals and our institutions. We are accountable to each other for this work. So it is the whole process of dismantling racism, white supremacy, white privilege, however you want to say it, in all forms of oppression. So it's all of those LGBTQ plus identities, ethnicities, language barriers, class barriers, all of those things that we want to live together and allow people to thrive as they can and as they will. In generosity, we cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. So there's something about gratitude, and I've spoken here before about gratitude, but gratitude gives us a sense of humility. When we can say, someone else has helped me achieve what I have achieved. When we can actually be grateful for that, then we have achieved a sense of humility, which I think most religious peoples strive for. We covenant to freely share our faith, presence, and resources. Compassionate generosity connects us to one another in relationships of mutuality. Evolution. We adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Evolution is fundamental to our life and to our Unitarian Universalist heritages. Never complete, never perfect. We continue to grow. We continue to change. There are some religious movements that are dedicated to the opposite of this. And in fact, without Charles Darwin, those movements would never have been created. Pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings. That's pretty fundamental. Each of us is sacred. We live in diverse cultures, theologies, and experiences. And so we covenant to learn from one another. Openly explore the depth and breadth of our many wisdoms. Each of us lives a different experience in this world. Those of us in this room have a lot of commonality in our experiences, but each is unique. Those in other cultures and other communities have a totally different experience. We need to open ourselves up to the wisdom of their experience. We embrace our differences, commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Equity. Every person has the right to flourish with dignity and worthiness. So we're making a difference. We're showing a difference here between equality and equity. You all familiar with that cartoon where there are three kids looking at standing outside the fence of a baseball game, and the tall kid's watching, and the middle kid can't see, and the little kid can't see. So the solution of equality is give them each a box to stand on. And now the big kid is way up in the air, and the middle kid can see, and the little kid still can't see. The equity solution is to give each of them a box, which allows them to look over the fence. So that's equity. Interdependence. So this is where our interdependent web of all existence comes in. With humility, we understand our place in the web. Again, with humility. We cannot be the ones who are in control of the web. We are part of the web. We covenant to care for and respect the earth and all beings by fostering relationships of mutuality. We work to repair the bonds that we have broken. This is our statement of taking care of this planet that we live on. So those 6 values supported by a foundation of love. Love is the enduring force that holds us together. So that's the changes that have been proposed. That's the first draft. This first draft was published in September. And throughout the fall, there were some virtual feedback sessions held. There were about 6 or 8 of them held. People got on Zoom and they discussed with a facilitator their reactions and responses to this first draft. I can tell you from the one session that I attended, which was one of the last, there were a lot of people who were concerned that there is no mention anywhere in here of democratic process. And so we were pretty much assured that the commission will address that in its next iteration. We'll see how that gets addressed. So that's one thing. There are a lot of other things. There were a number of people who were surprised that this was even happening. Well, they announced it for over a year, so. And actually at General Assembly last year, I was at General Assembly last year, and the study commission, this was in June, study commission had at least 4, if not 5 programs as part of the plenary sessions where they discussed how they were charged, what their process was, what their thinking was. And the last day, as we were walking out, they said, "Oh, and don't think that we are fixed on having a list." So we don't have a list. We have a circle of stones. Okay. This month, the Article 2 Study Commission will send its recommendations to the Board of Directors and will publish it to the general UU community. This will be incorporating all of the feedback they got from their feedback sessions in the fall. The Board of Directors will do what it does. There will be, throughout the winter of 2023, there will be regional feedback sections. So if you want to get more involved in this, we are in the Central Midwest region, and the folks responsible for managing the events of that region will schedule some time where people can get together. Whether it's going to be virtual or real or both, I don't know. So we need to pay attention if you're interested in following this through. Okay. In May of 2023, there will be a mini assembly, they call it. So General Assembly is always the third week in June. They're going to have this mini assembly a month before so that they can finalize the wording, incorporate whatever amendments the congregations want to offer and vote for. So this will be an opportunity if the congregation has a suggestion, an amendment that they want to make to the January report, then we can make that in this session, and the congregations present will vote on whether to incorporate it into the final document. That document will be presented at General Assembly. I believe amendments will not be allowed at General Assembly. It'll have to be, all amendments are going to have to be made in the mini assembly. General Assembly 2023, in order for the amendment to the bylaws to move forward, has to approve it by a simple majority vote. Then there will be a year's worth of study and commentary and angst and whatever. So that in General Assembly of 2024 in June, the Article 2 as revised by the General Assembly will have to achieve a 2/3 majority in order to be incorporated into the bylaws. That's the process. So there's a lot that we can do if we want to. I just wanted to put it out here. This is where we stand today. Okay. And we are getting ready to walk into a dark tunnel with a garden at the end. I was thinking, whenever we go into times of transition, there's anxiety, there's all this concern, and people get all upset that all these big changes are going to be made. It puts me in mind, when I was first joined my church back in Concord, Massachusetts, we had a program called Coming of Age program that was for 9th graders. And the first event was always to go out to some high ropes course and do some high ropes thing. And the one that stuck to my head was this event where the cable was like 30 feet off the ground, tied between two trees. And above it was another cable with ropes hanging down. And the objective was to get from one end of the cable to the other by holding onto the ropes. So you'd hold onto one rope, and then you'd sidle over this way and grab the next rope. Until you got to the end. And for the very last rope, you're sidling across and you're holding on as best you can, but you can't reach that rope. The only way to get to that rope is to let go of what you're holding on to. And keep leaning forward. We're not quite at that point yet, but we will be after General Assembly of 2023, which, if you're interested, is in Pittsburgh this year. But once we get through the dark chambers, then we'll find ourselves in the garden. That's where we are. And I'll be happy to chat more with you after.
For the change of the mic. There we go. Wow. That's flat. I mean, 7 principles, that's what I always thought was UU stuff. So it's a major change for the UU. So it's, I think, something to pay attention to. And I've updated my order of service. So if you're able, please stand for hymn 318, it would be 1. Our closing words by Maureen Killoran, Daring Vision. We extinguish this child's flame, daring to carry forward the vision of this free faith, that freedom, reason, and justice will one day prevail in this nation and across the earth. We're to self out.
Thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.